Despite the manga recently coming to an end and the anime quickly following suit, the My Hero Academia franchise doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, with a new spin-off series and continued merchandising. And with that, there comes speculation of when we're going to get a new My Hero Academia console game. Currently, we've gotten a series of two 3D arena fighters, My Hero 1's Justice, and its sequel, My Hero 1's Justice 2, as well as a third-person shooter battle royale, My Hero Ultra Rumble. But where do we go from here? What would be the ultimate My Hero Academia game? That's why I'm here to discuss my ideas for the My Hero Academia game that everyone wants. Over on my community tab, I posted a poll asking you all what genre the next My Hero Academia game should be, and an action RPG won with an overwhelming majority of the votes. When it comes to an action RPG, I think the most common idea is that this game would be similar to Marvel's Spider-Man, an open-world RPG with a focus on combat and traversal, with a fully fledged story and a number of unlockables and collectibles. Even with all of these elements, I could still see this game going in one of two very different directions. Option 1 is most similar to Spider-Man, where the main playable characters are canon characters. Option 2 would be more similar to something like Attack on Titan, where you create your own character and fight alongside canon characters. So, let's dive into both of these two ideas and compare and contrast them. Starting with option 1, the game would be similar to Marvel's Spider-Man 2. We would see 3 main playable characters, and the story would cover the entirety of the My Hero Academia manga and anime. The playable characters would be Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki, arguably the series' main 3 protagonists. The game would feature a fully explorable Musutafu with iconic locations from the series like UA High and the USJ. During free roam sections, you'll be able to switch between the 3 characters on the fly, but during actual story missions, you'll play as whoever is most relevant to the story at the time, such as playing as Deku at the beginning of the sports festival and playing as Deku while we're in the final stages of the sports festival. Our second option will be a little bit different when it comes to the basic premise. The main idea here is that you'd be able to create your very own hero. There would still be a fully explorable open world, but instead of playing as predetermined characters, you'd create your own. The story mode would still cover all of the main events of the manga and anime, except that you'd be playing as your own original character, experiencing these events alongside the canon cast. This means that you may miss some events from the anime that happen to specific characters, such as Deku vs. Muscular, but this would also give you a chance to experience moments that were never seen in the anime or manga. Essentially, you're able to make decisions about how your character participates in the story, such as choosing who you split up with at the USJ, or choosing whether to join Deku's rescue mission to save Bakugo. These decisions would not only determine what events you get to play through, but it also shapes your character and how they're perceived by the rest of the cast. Like Marvel's Spider-Man, our option 1 would have a heavy focus on exploration, movement, and combat. Each of the 3 main characters would play differently from one another, offering unique experiences both while exploring the open world and fighting enemies. Deku would be the main character and would be an all-around type character. During traversal, he can swing around using his black whip, and during combat, he can use his various quirks to pull off a variety of different combos. Bakugo would be more about quick movements and close combat. His traversal would see him flying around using his explosions and gaining quick boosts of speed. Todoroki would focus on ranged attacks, using his ice for defense and his fire for offense. When it comes to movement, he can either slide around on his ice or boost himself with his fire. The main appeal of option 2 would be having the ability to create your own hero and using them to fight villains and travel around the open world. The most important part of creating your character would be choosing a quirk. The problem here is that it would be virtually impossible to create a game where you can actually make your own quirk. So the best they can do is include most of the quirks already featured in the show, aside from the most narratively important ones like One for All and All for One, as well as a number of original quirks, mainly standard superpowers that aren't already in the source material, like super speed. Each quirk could come alongside multiple options for both movement and combat, giving you the opportunity to fine-tune your playstyle no matter what quirk you choose. For example, if you choose a fire quirk, then your movement can either mimic Bakugo's with quick bursts of speed, or it could mimic Endeavor with slower yet sustained flight. The same would go for combat. While some characters rely entirely on their quirk for fighting like Kaminari, others incorporate martial arts like Uraraka. The key here would be player choice. You would have complete control over how your character looks, what their costume looks like, support items if any, and of course, your playstyle. When it comes to progression, I think it would be best if you develop and unlock new abilities throughout the story. For example, you start off as quirkless Deku, only able to use the most basic of hand-to-hand combat, but as you progress through the story, you'll unlock new abilities just as Deku did in the source material. This way, you're truly put in his shoes and feel rewarded for progressing through the story, but you're also not overwhelmed with a plethora of quirks and abilities right off the bat. In addition to new moves and abilities, you'll also be able to unlock additional costumes. These range from simply unlocking costumes through the story like Deku's various hero costumes, to extra costumes unlocked across the map, such as the movie costumes. Progression for option 2 would be a similar approach. You'll be playing through essentially the same story, so you unlock new abilities at similar points, such as during the sports festival or the license exam. You'll also be able to unlock and find new costume parts and support items across the map, just like the extra costumes in option 1. Another option for customization would be your dorm room at Alliance Heights. Once you reach that part of the story, you'll be able to customize your room how you see fit, and unlock new furniture and decorations. When it comes to the open world itself, there will be a number of features that I could see being added to both options. For starters, let's go over collectibles. Like I just previously mentioned, there will be various costumes to unlock regardless of which option we go with. Another set of collectibles could be All Might memorabilia scattered across the map that once all of them are found, could reward you with an exclusive All Might themed costume. Around the map itself, there will be regularly occurring random crime events, wherein villains will randomly appear across the map. It'll be your task to jump in and stop them. Other random events could include emergency rescue missions or stopping out of control quirks. Certain locations will allow for special events that mimic plot lines from the anime. For example, once you've beaten the sports festival part of the story, you can travel back to the arena and replay events from the sports festival, such as the obstacle course and the 1v1 tournament. Other locations that could also function in a similar way would be the license exam, the USJ, the Class A vs Class B match, and many more. Other locations across the map could also be hideout raids, where you infiltrate villain bases and must take down all of the villains inside. Let's move on to the possibility of multiplayer. I think it could work for both options here, but it would have to be limited. The story modes of both would be single player only, but the open world and its associated events would be open to multiplayer. For option 1, there'd be 3 players max, each playing as one of the 3 playable characters. In option 2, would see 4 players max. Why? I don't know, that just kinda seems like the standard for these types of games. I think a cool addition that would be exclusive to the character creator version would be an online tournament themed around the sports festival. It'd play out like Fall Guys, I know, a weird comparison, where more players are eliminated each subsequent round until the final 1v1 bracket. And those are my main ideas for the next My Hero Academia game. As for which option would I prefer, I choose option 2 with the character creator. I think for a series that's all about becoming your own hero and the vast variety of quirks and unique characters, a game centered around putting you directly into that world would be the most fitting. But I can also see the argument for a game more similar to Marvel's Spider-Man, with a more accurate retelling of the story. Also, limiting the characters to only 3 canon characters would allow developers to spend more time fleshing out the combat and movement, making it feel like a fuller and deeper experience. Not to mention, a game that covers the entire story of My Hero Academia would be incredibly fitting given the series' recent end. But regardless, no matter which option would actually be chosen over the other, as long as we don't get just another generic arena fighter, I'll be happy. And you know what, now that I say that, we're probably just gonna get another generic arena fighter.